Assalamualaikum and very good morning to all my lovely girls. I hope you all in a good condition and always have a high motivation to learn. Alright, so for today we are going to continue our syllabus with the chapter 11. Yeah, so the title of the chapter 11 is Inheritance. Yeah, Inheritance. Yeah, dalam bahasa Melayunya adalah perwarisan. Yeah, okay. So in this chapter, there is a four subtopic. Yeah, four subtopic. 11.1 Monohybrid Inheritance, 11.2 Dihybrid Inheritance, ada 11.3 Genes and Alleles, and last one is 11.4 Inheritance in Humans. Okay, so this topic is a little bit challenging and also interesting. So you are going to learn a new knowledge. Alright, so I hope you will be ready for this. Alright, okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so do you know that dimple? Dimple. So what is a dimple? Dalam bahasa Melayunya adalah lesung pipit. Lesung pipit. So dimple, a genetic defect. Satu kecacatan genetik. Alright. So an individual who has indentation on his or her cheek, or more popularly known as dimples, looks cute when he or she smiles. Okay, do you know that dimple or gelacin is actually a genetic defect? Actually a genetic defect of a facial muscle called zygomaticus major. Alright, so zygomaticus major muscle is shorter than the normal, so which pulls the cheek skin to form an indentation. So dimple is a dominant trait which can be inherited, right? So that is about the dimple. So dimple is one of the genetic defects. Okay, so let's go to the learning standards that you are going to cover for today. So we are going to learn 11.1 Monohybrid Inheritance. Monohybrid Inheritance. So the learning standard for today, you are able to describe the meaning of a monohybrid cross. Able to describe the meaning of monohybrid cross. Second one, explain a monohybrid cross based on the Mendel's experiments. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about the Mendel experiment. Right. Okay, so what is a monohybrid inheritance? Okay, so first we go to the meaning of the inheritance first. Okay, so what is inheritance? Inheritance is the transmission of genetic information from the parents to the offspring. Offspring ini adalah anak to the offspring from generation to generation. Alright, so what is inheritance again? Inheritance is the transmission of genetic information from the parents to the offspring from generation to generation. So the genetic information that being transmitted is referred to the genes. Refer to the genes which determine the characteristics of an organism. Okay, so that is the refer to the meaning of the inheritance. Okay, make sure you know and you do understand what is the inheritance, the transmission of the genes or genetic information from the parents to the offspring from generation to the generation. Okay, and then, so what is genetics? Genetics is a field of study, right? Okay, so genetics is the study of heredity. Heredity and variation of inherited characteristics. Heredity, keturunan. So Gregor Mendel, Gregor Mendel is a scientist, carried out many inheritance experiments on his garden pea plants. On his garden pea plants. Okay, so from his experiment on inheritance, he proposed Mendel's first and second law and is known so he is known as the father of modern genetics. Yeah, so this is referred to the Gregor Mendel. Yeah, so he is known as a father of the modern genetics, yeah, because he carried out many inheritance experiments on his garden pea plants. Okay, so later we'll discuss more about the Gregor Mendel. Okay, and then we go to our subtopic for today. So what is a monohybrid inheritance? Yeah, what do you mean by mono? Right, mono mean one. Right, okay, hybrid refers to the cross, yeah? Inheritance. Yeah? So monohybrid inheritance involve, yeah, inheritance of one characteristics and different traits controlled by a gene. Yeah, okay, monohybrid inheritance involved inheritance of one characteristics. Yeah, so it is referred to the inheritance that involve only one characteristic. Right? So in this one characteristic, it has two different traits that controlled by a gene. Right? So later we'll discuss more about the monohybrid inheritance. Right? So don't worry. So this is referred to the Mendel's workplace. Yeah, Mendel workplace. He carried out many inheritance experiments on his garden pea plants. Yeah? So this is referred to the microscope, yeah, that he used. Yeah? Alright, so the same area in 1920s. And now, okay, so this referred to the site of the Gregor Mendel experiment in the garden in the Czech Republic. Alright, okay, so let's take a look. Okay, why Mendel choose P? Yeah, why Mendel choose P? Choose the pea plant, yeah, as his research material. Okay, because so do you know actually what is a pea plant? Pea actually refer to the kalau dalam bahasa Melayunya adalah kacang peas, yeah, kacang peas, yeah. So why he choose pea plant? Okay, because it can be easily grown and bears many seedlings. Yeah, easily grown and bears many seedlings. Then it has both male and female reproductive structures. Yeah? So in the flower of the pea plant, it has both male and female reproductive structures. It has a short generation interval, yeah, short generation interval, and then it possesses contrasting traits or characteristics that are obvious. Yeah? It possesses characteristics that are obvious. Yeah? Dia pokok ini ataupun kacang ini dia membolehkan yang mengkajinya ciri-ciri yang jelas, ya, yang obvious. Okay, so Mendel experiment. Okay, we discuss more about the Mendel experiment. Okay, Mendel figured that pea plants, yeah, the scientific name of the pea plants here is Pisum sativum, yeah. Pisum sativum possess 7 different characteristics. Yeah, so the pea plant possess and they show 7 different characteristics. Yeah, so the pea plants have contrasting traits, which are obvious and easy to identify. Yeah, so okay, I recap. Mendel figure that the pea plant, yeah, has 7 different characteristics. Yeah, and on these 7 characteristics, it has a contrasting traits. Yeah, which are obvious and easy to identify. Okay, so let's take a look on this table. So this is referred to the 7 characteristics, yeah, 7 different characteristics that shown by the pea plant. Okay, what are the characteristics? The seed shape, yeah, seed shape, bentuk biji dia, yeah, seed color, warna bijinya, pot shape, yeah, okay, bentuk pot dia, and then the color, yeah, pot color, flower color, flower position, and plant height. So these are referred to the 7 characteristics that shown by the pea plant. Okay. So what are the traits? These characteristics uh, are shown the different contrasting traits, which are obvious. Okay. So in the characteristic of the seed shade, it has two contrasting traits, which are round and constricted. Yeah. So round refer to the dominant trait, and constricted refer to the recessive trait. Okay, so this term, don't worry, we are going to discuss more in our next lesson, right? Okay, so what you have to know that the characteristics, for the seed shape, it has two traits, whether it's round or constricted, right? For the seed color, it also has two different traits, so contrasting traits, which is yellow and also a green, yellow or green. Okay, pod shape, inflated and constricted. Pod color, whether green or yellow, and for the flower, whether purple or white. And for the flower position, terminal, the flower is at the terminal, and the flower also whether the flower is also at the axial. Okay, so please do a little bit correction in your textbook there on page 230. Right, okay, use your pencil. Okay, cut the right of the axial. Okay, so you have to write. So the correct term here, it is referred to the terminal. It's not axial. Okay, this is referred to the terminal. Okay, so use your pencil. Okay, and then write down the correct term, which is terminal. Terminal refers to the flower position at the terminal, at the end of the stem. Right? Okay, and then this is referred to the axial. Axial refer to the flower position at the side of the stem. Alright? Okay. And then last characteristic is the plant height. Yeah, there is two different traits which are tall and also dwarf. Right? Okay. So this is referred to the different traits, and that is shown by the pea plant, which are obvious and easy to identify. So that's why Mendel chose the pea plant. Okay, Mendel suggested in his theory that a characteristic in a parent plant is passed down to its next generation through male gametes and female gametes. Right? Okay, I repeat. Mendel suggested in his theory that a characteristic in a parent plant is passed down to its next generation through male gamete and also female gamete. Okay, so I hope you still remember. Okay, where is the male gamete of the plant? Yeah. So the male gamete and also female gamete is referred to the gamete that produce in the anther and also in the ovule. Okay, this shows that the nuclei of the male and female gametes carry genetic materials of the inherited characteristics is known as a gene. Alright, so this shows that the nuclei refer to the plural of the nucleus. So the nucleus of the male and female gametes carry genetic materials of the inherited characteristic is known as a gene. So the genetic material is referred to the gene that carry by the nucleus of the male and female gamete. Alright, so that is suggested by the Mendel. Yeah? So the inheritance factor which determine a characteristics is known as gene. Alright, so the genetic material or the inheritance factor, the inheritance factor which determine a characteristic, faktor pewarisan yang menentukan ciri, sesuatu ciri, so it's known as gene, it's known as a gene. Okay, so in the monohybrid inheritance experiment, in the monohybrid inheritance experiment, okay, so what is a monohybrid inheritance? It is involved the inheritance of the one characteristics, only one characteristic is involved in the monohybrid inheritance. So Mendel used purebred pea plants, purebred pea plants as the parental generation to study the inheritance of the pea plant's trait. So you have to know that Mendel used a purebred pea plant. Okay. In the next lesson, I will explain about what is a purebred pea plant. Okay, purebred pea plant, a pea plant as the parental generation. Parent generation to study the inheritance of the pea plant's trait. Okay, purebred pea plants are produced. Okay, so how does he get the purebred pea plants? So the purebred pea plants are produced through self-crossed plant which have similar traits to that of its parent plant in terms of genetic content. So therefore, self-cross of purebred tall pea plants produce only tall offspring. Alright, okay. So apa maksudnya di sini So the purebred pea plants are produced, dihasilkan melalui self-cross, self-cross melalui kacukan sendiri, kacukan sendiri that refer to the plant, plant that have a similar trait, merujuk kepada pokok yang mempunyai ciri yang sama, trait yang sama. So this self-cross will produce purebred tall pea plants. So if the purebred, the characteristic refer to the tall plant, so the offspring produce also tall plant. That is the meaning of the purebred, purebred plants, whereby it produced by the self-cross of the plants that have a similar trait. If tall with the tall plant, tall with the tall plant, and the offspring will also have the tall characteristics. Okay, that is referred to the purebred. Okay, so in the dominance principle, in the dominance principle, the Mendel explained that in a pea plant with a pair of contrasting traits, its traits is determined by a dominant inheritance factor. So its trait is determined by a dominant inheritance factor, whereas another contrasting trait is determined by a recessive inheritance factor. So this is referred to the dominance principle. So what Mendel explained that the pea plant in a pea plant that have a pair of the contrasting traits. So the traits is determined by a dominant factor. By the dominant factor. For example, I choose the characteristic is referred to the tall, to the height of the plant, and the traits, the trait is referred to the tall and the dwarf. So the dominant factor here is referred to the tall. The dominant trait here refer to the tall. So when there is a dominant factor, so the traits shown by the plant is tall. Is tall. Alright. Okay. So that is referred to the dominance principle. Okay. So that is explained by the Mendel. In Mendel. So I hope you can understand. So the dominant inheritance factor suppress the effect. So dominant inheritance factor suppress the effect of the recessive inheritance factor. So when there is a dominant factor, so it will cover the effect of the recessive. So the recessive will not show its character or its trait. Yeah? For example, for the plant height, the character of the plant height, so it has two traits which are tall and dwarf. So tall is the dominant factor. Yeah, when there is a tall factor, when there is a dominant factor, so the dominant factor will cover the recessive, will suppress the effect of the recessive, so the dwarf will not show its trait. Yeah, so the plant will show tall, yeah, tall traits. Alright, as long as if there is a dominant factor. Okay, so hence the recessive is not visible. Yeah, so the recessive trait is not visible, although its inheritance factor exists together with the dominant inheritance factor in the pea plant. Okay, so don't worry about this. Later we will discuss more about this. Yeah? We will discuss the diagram of the monohybrid cross. Yeah? Alright, so this is referred to the monohybrid hybrid cross carried out by the Mendel. Yeah. So what the Mendel do? Yeah, in the experiment. Okay, Mendel cross a purebred tall, a purebred tall pea plant. Yeah, so that has a tall, tall uh, tall traits, yeah, tall traits with a purebred dwarf, yeah, okay. So has a this is purebred dwarf trait, yeah, okay. So what happened when the Mendel crossed the tall plant with the dwarf plant? Both of them are purebred, yeah, purebred, okay, and then the cross product, between the two purebred plants was F generation. Yeah, F1 generation, which consisted of only tall pea plants. Yeah, so this shows that the tall trait is dominant, whereas the dwarf trait is recessive. Okay, so let's take a look on the diagram here. So this is referred to the tall plant crossed with the dwarf plant, and then it will produce the offspring. So the offspring that produce we call as F1 generation. Yeah, so all of these are F1 generation or first filial generation. Okay, so all tall plants are produced here. Okay, why all tall plant produce? Because tall is the dominant trait. Yeah, so because tall is the dominant trait, whereas dwarf is the recessive trait. So the dwarf trait suppressed, yeah, by the dominant trait, which is tall. So that's why in F1 generation the offspring produced are all tall plants. Yeah, tall plants. Okay, and then what happened next? Mendel then crossed the F1 generation by self-pollination. Right? Okay, F1 generation is cross each other by self-pollination. Yeah, self-pollination, and then okay. So what happened? So it will produce the F2 generation. Yeah, F2 generation called as second filial generation. Alright, so the ratio of the tall plant to dwarf plant is in F2 generation was 3 to 1. Okay, means that the offspring produce 3 are tall plant and 1 is dwarf plant. Yeah, 3 of them are tall plant and 1 is dwarf plant. So the ratio of the tall to the dwarf plant is 3 to 1 in the F2 generation. Yeah, in the F2 generation. So this is referred to the experiment of the monohybrid cross that carried out by the Mendel. Right? Okay. So I hope you can understand. Alright. Please go through again about the monohybrid inheritance. Okay, so what is a monohybrid inheritance? It is involve the inheritance of the one characteristic. So in this diagram, we can see only one characteristic is studied here. Okay, what is the characteristics? That is referred to the plant height. So the plant height has two different traits. What are they? Tall and dwarf plant. Right? Okay, so the tall and dwarf plant of the purebred plant cross and produce F1 generation. So all F1 generation is tall plant. Why tall plant? Because tall is the dominant trait. So it will suppress the recessive trait. Alright, okay, which is dwarf. Dwarf is the recessive. So the dominant, which is tall, will suppress the recessive trait, which is dwarf. So that's why all F1 generation produce is are tall plants, right? And then what happened next? Mendel carried out one more experiment whereby he crossed the F1 generation to each other by self-pollination. Okay, and then it will produce F2 generation. So in the F2 generation, the ratio of the tall plant produced is 3 to 1. The ratio of the tall plant to dwarf plant produced is 3 to 1. Yeah, three out of 4 are tall, 1 out of 4 is dwarf. Right? Over 75% of them are tall, and 25% of them are dwarf. Alright? Okay, so that is referred to the monohybrid cross carried out by the Mendel. Alright, so we will continue our lesson in our next class. So please listen to this video many times or read your textbook many times, your reference book many times until you do understand. Alright, okay, so that's all for now. Okay, thank you girls. Take care everyone.